If you've ever clicked on a YouTube video and thought the format looked very similar to another YouTuber's, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, the reason we're making a video like Grand Thumb, I can explain very easily. And that is that I'm getting kind of sick and tired of shooting outside in heavy winds, very, very hot. It's been like 100 degrees plus here in Texas the last couple of days. And also the locusts just won't shut up. For example, if you look at the last video I just uploaded, the Palmetto State Armory AR-15 or the PA-15 stress test, and props to cameraman Ian for bearing through it as well. That day, I think it got up to 102 degrees. We were out there for a total of like 3.5 to 4.5 hours or so. Had a wicked farmer's tan after that. The whole time it was just super bright, super hot. The locusts just kept making a lot of noise and it was just driving me crazy. No one complained about it yet, but I wasn't a fan. And ultimately it was just not a good time. But I figured why not just make it a little easier on myself for the time being and just shoot all the talking portion inside under some fine lighting and air conditioning. So that's why we're doing this. Back to the subject of the video. This is a Recce rifle build that I try to do for under $1,000. If you guys are new to the subject, what Recce is, it's a Recce or recon rifle. It's a certain task of a rifle. Initially, my plan with this was to try to do a Mark 12 for under $1,000. The problem with doing a Mark 12, kind of like you guys like the spray painted gun, the Mach 12 I call it. The reason I call it a Mach 12, I've said it plenty of times, it's not a parts correct Mark 12 clone, but it was my interpretation of one, and so I call it a Mach 12. The thing is, a Mark 12 Mod 1 is a real gun. So if you have something that's off on it, it's no longer a Mark 12. That's why I call it a Mach 12. However, when you say a Recce or a recon rifle, that's painted with a much broader stroke, so you can use some different things. You don't have to use a Leupold, you don't have to do this, you don't have to make it parts correct. So I kind of mid-build, I just said, you know what, this is not gonna be a Mark 12, it's gonna be a Recce rifle. So what that is the task. The task of a Recce rifle was kind of meant to be a more wieldable precision AR platform. Something that, as far as the task, being in a building, being able to sweep with it, being able to kind of like clear rooms, they say, while being able to then make some distant shots out to effective ranges. If you're talking about effective ranges with an AR, you're talking, it could even be 500 yards or so. We were shooting the Mach 12 out to 686. So that's the idea of a Recce rifle, but all within one package. Now we'll say the Mark 12 or the Mach 12, of course, that was a build that kind of got Frankenstein together over a period of time, and I love the way it turned out. You guys seem to like it as well. But that is a Yankee Hill A2 fixed stock with an 18-inch barrel. I thought I really want that same characteristics in that rifle, the same feel, but in a much more condensed profile, so it's just easier to just throw in a bag and just wield around. So that's what this is. So let's talk about the price breakdown then. Get this thing under $1,000. Well, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I made a post, so let me go ahead and go to that for reference. But I posted this on Instagram a few days ago, so shameless plug, follow me at Texas Plinking. You guys see builds weeks before they ever make it to YouTube. That's just unfortunately the way it rolls. It starts out with the heart of the rifle. The only part that's considered a rifle is the lower receiver. This was a Bear Creek Arsenal, a BCA complete lower receiver. That came with the A2 buttstock, not this one. Trigger group, all that kind of stuff, and that was just under 150 bucks, 149.90, whatever. We'll call it 150. The upper receiver was also a complete upper receiver from Bear Creek Arsenal. That was just under 200 bucks. We'll call it 200 bucks. This is a 16-inch barrel chambered in 223 Wylde. I went with that because I have a 5.56 chambering on the Mach 12. And as it turns out, I almost always shoot 223, which of course works in a 5.56, but it's not as accurate. The Wylde chambering is good for both 5.56 and 223, and supposedly it groups better on both. I haven't had a 223 Wylde and tried to make it a precision build until this one, so be curious to see what it does. I'm going to probably shoot tomorrow with some 75 grain black from Hornady, the Botel hollow points. That's what got me out to 686 yards with a fair amount of ease on that 5.56 Mach 12. So we'll see how it does with this. But again, that's $200 for that complete. And it came with a 15-inch M-LOK free float handguard. So I went ahead and got a quad rail. Now this is one of those, you know, shame from those clone correct people, because they'll get the Knight's Armament and spend like a couple $100. This was a find on eBay and new, so you could find it as well. That was like $32, $33, believe it or not, with the mounting equipment. This is my second one I've owned. The other one's on the Mach 12 actually, and it held up fine. So let's call that 35 bucks. The bipod. This is I wanted a QD bipod just for the whole thesis of the gun. You could drop some weight on the front where it's like most crucial. You could just go ahead and drop that and then go ahead and hand hold it with a vertical grip. But nonetheless, this is QD, and it's not that expensive. This is actually a CV Life, and I got this one for 20 bucks on, I think it was Amazon. I've had a couple of these CV Lifes. They tend to do pretty well. Of course, there's no tilt, you know, like a Harris. That's where spending that $90 is super worth it on like those precision bolt actions. That's not the theme of this one, so 20 bucks on the Bipod, I don't feel bad about that. Vertical grip, that was about 10 bucks on Optic's Planet. These were eBay right here. These are Knight's Armament rail covers. Two of them were about, what the heck was it? Let me see here. 15 bucks for two of them. Moving on, the lower did not come with a mag, which is fine because I wanted a specific mag. I wanted a 20 round mag. Reason being, high capacity is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but in the kind of gun like this, being able to run it low profile, so if you deploy the Bipod in its shortest setting, like let's just say, for example, let's go ahead and deploy the Bipod. If I had a 30 round mag, that would probably stick out to about right here, and I couldn't drop the buttstock. Being a 20 round mag now, I have all that much more room. And when you're precision shooting 20 rounds, that's gonna be plenty for you. So that is a Magpul PMag 20 round mag. That was about 10 bucks on Mag Warehouse, I think it was. Let's talk about the buttstock. I replaced the law enforcement looking one. This is actually the same stock that was on the Palmetto State. Not the exact one, because we stress tested it, so it got pretty nicked up. Still works though, so that impressed me. But this is the same one, so it's about 25 bucks on eBay. It's a B5 SOPMOD knockoff. The real B5s are about 65 to like 80 bucks. If you want to spend the real money, there you go. But this is a budget build, 25 bucks. So if you just consider that there, we're at $464 for a fully functioning rifle. Now, picking an optic, yes, the price includes the optic, crazy enough. That was a fine balancing act because I always try to drive home the idea of invest in the scope, don't get something crappy. You just don't want to do that. I mean, that's just self-explanatory. You can have a really accurate rifle if you have a crap scope. That's just no good for everyone. I would much rather run a stock Remington 700 with a Razor HD Gen 2 than running an Accuracy International $4,000+ rifle with like a $100 hunting optic. I'm going on a tangent, but anyway, so picking something, you know, within the budget for this was a fine balancing act, but I was really happy to find this one. So I haven't shot with this one, but so far, just from getting my feel of it and just looking through it, I don't really know how Vortex did this. So without beating around the bush, this is the Vortex Diamondback Tactical 4-16 by 44. I think the easiest way I could describe this scope is just to tell you what it doesn't have. It doesn't have illumination. It doesn't have a zero stop. That's about it. So if you guys don't know, I'm sure you do, but a zero stop is to where you know, you're going to cross that same zero multiple times as you're spinning it. And the fear is that if you start dialing down to the zero, you might overgo and you forget what zero is yours. So the zero stop will stop it hard. That shouldn't be a problem with this one for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think it's going to make that full revolution down to a -0. Just for my bore sighting, I don't think so. But even then, if you guys just do the zero reset, which this does have, this reticle is so good that you could literally just keep it there and go to extended ranges just using holdovers. So with that said, let's run over the features on this real quick. But yeah, we have got the 4-16 range, 44 objective. Not the largest objective, but it does keep the profile down at 44mm. And so that's really nice. Here's the crazy thing, 30mm tube. At this price, I would fully expect a 1-inch tube, so they give you that one step above, which is gonna give you more milling. A little bit better light transfer. I'm not too into the science behind that, but that's kind of what I tend to know. When you go 30mm, also you get that less of a tunneling effect. To go 34mm, and then obviously it gets even better. But for this price, really tactile clicks. I don't know if you guys can hear it from over there, but super nice. Very tactile. Parallax, I think that goes down to 25 yards on the marking there. I am wrong, it's 20. That's pretty sweet. Another thing that surprised me is for the price, I would expect a second focal plane. They give you a first focal plane, which means as you zoom in, you're also zooming in not only to the image, but the reticle itself. Reason for that, if you guys are unaware, is so the math and the milling and all of the relativity stays the same. What is that 1 mil at 100 yards on 4 power, and what is that 1 mil at 500 yards on 16 power? It's 1 mil always, because the relativity stays the same because it's first focal plane, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's huge. And not only that, but the reticle itself is awesome. It would be a shame to make such a great reticle and not have it first focal plane, in my opinion, but it is the EBR-2C. That's what I kind of refer to as the Christmas tree reticle. They have a few different ones, but the EBR-2C in particular has awesome holdovers for drop and windage and both. That's the formation of the Christmas tree. Overall, just a big fan of the reticle and the fact that it's on a first focal plane, 30mm tube, tactile, very quality feeling. Haven't shot through it yet, like I said. All of that. This thing actually retails for, I think it was $450, but the street price, I think it goes on Amazon or Optic's Planet for around $349. That's kind of ridiculous. So we'll see how it goes, but I've heard other people's take on it, and they seem to do really well. But just for my feel through it here, I'm really impressed. So I think it was the whole thesis of this build. I think it just matched it perfectly. I realize I talked about the Optic quite a bit in this video, but it's a very important piece of the build. And so I have to mention it. Now, you do not want to spend, in this case it is a budget build, but still you don't want to spend $350 on your scope and $450 plus on the rifle, and then those $20 rings, you know, you don't want to do that. However, there are economic rings out there that are really reputable and really good for, and you don't have to spend the $500 for a spur mount, although those are great mounts. But there are good in-betweens, and that's these right here. I think these are fairly new from Vortex, so I don't really recognize them, but I bought these at Academy. I think they retail for $60. Academy had some $10 deal going on, so you got them for, or I got them for $49.99, so let's call it $50 for these rings. These are their 30mm Pro rings. One quick note, if you guys do decide to replicate this build and get these rings, it's so important even that they put it here in text, that you have to get a torque wrench. I would definitely recommend that. And you torque these to only 18 inch-pounds of torque. They don't need a whole lot, especially with just how many screws there are. It has a really good clamp on there, so 18 pound-feet of torque, very important to note that. So get a torque wrench if you haven't already. I'll put a link in the description to like a Wheeler one that I use. Anyway, that's for you guys that are going to be doing this build to the T. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick pause. The rifle, bipod grip, mag, rail system, everything, scope, mount. We're now at, what was it? $864. If I wanted to, we could go ahead and say, all right, we're good there. We're now under $900 for this build. But because there's a budget left over and I have a little knack for certain things, we went a little bit further. So let's go ahead and talk about the trigger. Now I had this lying around, so it didn't cost me anything. I kind of impulsively bought them when I thought they were really cheap. But this is a LaRue MBT-2S. If you guys have been subscribed for more than a year, you would think I'm a bit of a fanboy, and I am. LaRue Tactical, I could literally throw a rock that way and hit their building. They're really close. I haven't done any kind of collaborations with them or anything, but they are a neighbor of mine, so I think that's pretty cool. Love LaRue, but I still, even if they were in somewhere else, I would still say this is probably the best trigger upgrade you could do for the money. These used to be about 140 bucks. The triggers haven't changed, but the price have. They're now 80 bucks, at least last time I checked. They come in a bow or a flat trigger. I like the bows. I've had both now. I like the traditional bow. 80 bucks for a trigger, guys. It's so good. It's a 2-stage, 2.5 pounds on the first stage and then 2 pounds to break. So crisp, 10 times better than a factory mil-spec trigger. Voice crack. Anyway, that's 80 bucks. So now we are at 944 bucks. I would at that point go ahead and call the build done. We're good. 944, you're good. But you do notice a couple things, but really that's just my use, and that's just my thing particularly. I will of course mention it. So this is my Aac Sd N6 suppressor. This is my only suppressor I have. I'm waiting on a pistol suppressor that probably won't be here until December. But to use this, I need a Aac muzzle brake with the 51 tooth or 51T ratchet system. So whenever I get a rifle that is chambered to allow the suppressor, I always get a muzzle brake. Because they're proprietary to that mount, they can get a little expensive. The flash hider, the like 3-prong looking thing that's like on the ACR, you could get this for like 80 bucks or something like that. But I did want to go with the muzzle brake with the ports on the side just to reduce recoil. Without the suppressor, it will make it a lot more flat shooting, just these ports, just throwing the gases to the side. That's a little bit more pricey. That's about 115 bucks. So with that said, now the build is $1,059 if you guys wanted this muzzle brake in particular. If you guys don't have the suppressor, then you wouldn't want to do that. In fact, with that budget left over at 944, I think I said, you guys can get a muzzle brake that's just as, if not more effective than this one without the suppressor capability. And you guys can probably get something like that for like 50 bucks and you're still under $1,000. The suppressed Recce. Of course, the price of the suppressor itself is like $600 or $700 before the tax stamp. So that is not part of this sub $1,000 build, but we are sub 2,000. And with my eye relief and my lanky arms, I need the stock all the way folded out. So with this, you know, setup, it looks like a much longer rifle. But you guys saw it with the condensed stock and the suppressor off. And you guys saw how nice and wieldable it was. But this is a really nice sized rifle because at the end of the day, it's a 16-inch barreled AR, but we just kind of went a little bit more precision oriented with a nice scope and a nice trigger. So that's kind of the task anyway. So with all that said, I haven't shot this gun as of yet. In fact, I'm shooting it tomorrow, which is footage you guys are about to see right now. So we're gonna go ahead and sight it in at 100, try to group it with some 75 grain Hornady black. Go for groupings, go for 300 yards, go for 450. We'll see how the conditions are tomorrow if I'm going to do over 680 yards, but let's give it a go. So let's go ahead and cut to that footage. We did a quick sight in with this thing. Thing is, I wanted to sight it in and do some, you know, 5-round groupings and several of them for standardized testing on camera. But unfortunately, I think I'm just gonna have to wait for the groupings for another day. I didn't even attempt groupings. It is like 100 and too much out right now. No wind, which should be nice for long range, but it is just so hot that I don't think I would have been able to do this rifle much justice trying to go for groupings. I'm not that stable shooting at the bed of my truck. In fact, just sighting it in kind of gave me some difficulty, but it seems to be on right now. So I reset the zero, backed out to 455 yards. I dialed 3.1 mils and I haven't even shot yet, so you guys can see my first attempts with that. All right, at least we get a first round hit. That's not too bad. 10 out of 10 hits, so I guess I'll just be wasting ammo any further shooting here, so I guess we'll pose the challenge and go out to 686 yards. One thing that I'm actually kind of impressed by, other than just hitting 10 out of 10 on the first attempt there, is I wrote down this little dope card and put it in the pistol grip, and it seems to be dead on. I just kind of guessed it with what kind of dope I had with an 18-inch barrel Mach 12, and I said the velocity was a little bit slower with this one, and it seems to be dead on, so that's 10 out of 10 there. All right, so we're off to a pretty good start. I say we just go to 686 and see what the heck happens. I think that would be, I might be at like about 6.3, 6.4. Let's try 6.4, see what happens. All right, right over its shoulder, I see that now. All right, that was off to the right. There we go. There we go. Just off to the right. There we go. That's a sign. That was the last shot too. Well, I hate that the long range portion of this video is a little short, but I think we kind of proved it. I'll certainly like to bring this out in the future, especially when it cools down, and see if we can't stretch it out further. I don't know, but 686 yards out of something, you know, nice and condensed, like a 16-inch barreled AR. I think that's actually quite impressive. So again, this is my first precision 223 Wylde chambering, and it seems to be doing pretty well. That just about does it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.